Does anybody know if Fat Boy is actually going to review something?
All he does is regurgitate news articles. If I wanted to read about the news, I would just go to N4G, duh.
I bet you this fat bastard sits home all day and eats Oreos dipped in Crisco. Must be nice to just, sit in front of a camera for 10 minutes a day and be able to make a living off of it. What a fraud.
Mom, did Retro Review Tech USA upload something? I need to make 30-minute videos on them and take some notes.
Oh, what's the matter there, Regurgitate Tech Articles, Afghanistan? Is it too tough to review something?
I need someone to hold my camera while I film this 20-minute video. Where's my girlfriend?
This man needs to go to the Help Wanted ads and find a real job and stop trying to review things.
I swear to God, if he promises to review one more thing and doesn't actually follow through, I'm unsubscribing and never looking back. Does he ever actually stand up and walk anywhere? I'm just curious.
Why are you so fat?
It's time for the review. Oh, look what's in front of me, everybody. To all the people out there that said I was afraid to review this system, I have a Sega Genesis Flashback in front of me. And a fake cucumber. We don't need that. Whatever. But I have the Sega Genesis Flashback. I purchased this with my own money. And ever since this system has been announced and I called out AtGames, there was a ton of people that said that, oh, Rich, hey, I got some bad news for you. You were hating on the AtGames Sega Genesis Flashback, but it's actually a good system. What, are you afraid to review it? You don't want to look bad in front of your audience? You got some egg on your face there? Oh, is there egg on my face? Is there egg right here? How about here? Any egg? I don't feel any egg. How about right here? Come closer. Is there some egg right there? Egg right here? There is no egg, because guess what? This system still sucks, just like I predicted it would. Now, look, I love the Sega Genesis, and I really do feel that the Sega Genesis deserves the NES Classic treatment, or maybe a clone system like what Analog has done with the original Nintendo Entertainment System, or now the Super Entertainment System. Super Entertainment System. Super Entertainment System? What's a Super Entertainment System? You mean the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, you dumbass? Anyway, proceed. Those are fantastic clone consoles of Nintendo's old school consoles, and I would love to see Sega's 16-bit system get the same kind of treatment. But I'll tell you right now, man, AtGames, they're not the company to do it. They're not. I was really hoping maybe Hyperkin would make a Sega Genesis clone console that was similar to the NES and SNES Classic, or some other brand. I would love to see a high-end Sega Genesis clone console maybe come out from Analog where they use a field programmable array in there. That would be fantastic. The Sega Genesis is one of my favorite consoles of all time. But this, AtGames, it's another crap system from them. It's their best clone Sega Genesis system ever, but that's not saying much. That's like saying painful constipation is better than explosive diarrhea. Shit! Look, I've been dealing with AtGames since I've been reviewing crap all the way back in 2009. And back then, when they came out with the crappy clone system AtGames, I tolerated it because back then clone systems were really new and exciting. And I'm like, the sound is unbearable, but eventually AtGames will get it right. And, the emulation is kind of slow and choppy, but eventually they'll get it right. It's kind of playable. But years went by, and I got more AtGames systems and more AtGames systems, and they all suck on horse ass. Horses. That's the ass that AtGames sucks. They're at that level. So anyway, we pull out this cartridge. Let's take a look around the system real quick. Now, I will say up front that the console itself, I love the aesthetic of it. This is what the original Sega Genesis / Mega Drive looked like, and they did a good job replicating it. Now, of course, you don't have the volume control there, but This is a really good looking system. It's nice. It'll look good under your home entertainment center, and it does replicate that old school first generation model Sega Genesis really well. Now you have an on-off switch, and it actually looks and feels just like the original Sega Genesis did. You have a menu button down here. This used to be the reset button on the original Sega Genesis. And this is where this is supposed to be superior to the NES Classic, but actually has a cartridge slot. Also, too, there are 85 built-in games into the Sega Genesis Flashback, but there are 28 games of unofficial, unlicensed, hot garbage on here. 45 of the games are actually Sega Genesis games. The rest are actually Sega games as well, but they're Sega Master System, Sega Game Gear games. Not saying they're bad, they're just, 45, having 45 Sega Genesis games is a good number, though. We can't complain about that. I can complain about, though, there are no Streets of Rage games built into this thing. Streets of Rage is like one of my favorite franchises of all time. Easily my favorite beat-em-up series of all time. And it's like a staple of the Sega Genesis, and it's not on here. They don't have Sonic 3 on here, too. I don't understand why they don't have that. But anyway, let's take a look around this system. Now, I just showed you that it has a cartridge slot, so you can play your actual cartridge Sega Genesis or Mega Drive games on here. But build quality-wise, you pick this thing up, man. I could fart and blow this thing away. If I had a strong enough fart, this system, like a feather, would probably just go across the room like this due to my ass hair. It's really light. I cannot stress enough how cheap this feels. A lot of people actually get on the Nintendo Switch saying that has cheap plastic. No way, son. You don't know cheap plastic until you feel it, and this is it. Now, really, the only other thing to see on the Sega Genesis Flashback is on the back of it. You have a port for the power, and you have an HDMI port, and that's it. Kind of fun and funny they actually make it look like the HDMI port is gold-plated. Seriously. The rest of the system feels like cheap shit, and you have a fake gold-plated HDMI port, but whatever. Okay, whatever's clever. Now, yeah, the system may feel like a toy you got from the dollar store. Actually, that's probably insult to dollar store toys. But I never thought I would see this coming. I don't know, I did a Donald Trump hand gesture there.
I have something that others don't have.
These wireless controllers that the Sega Genesis Flashback comes with are phenomenal. I don't have many good things to say about the system, but these controllers, I can't say enough good about them. They're responsive. They feel like the original Sega Genesis 6-button controllers. There's no lag. Their connectivity is flawless. There's other wireless controllers I've used with clone systems before, and they would disconnect, or you would have to resync them. This, I just turned it on once, synced to the Flashback, and you felt like it was so responsive, it felt like you were using a wired controller, which you can do with this. There are 2 original Sega Genesis controller ports in here, so if you have a controller hanging around like I do, right here, cord's all the way on the floor, but I do, you can do that if you don't like these. But if, even after this review, I don't think you will, but if you still do decide to get this system, just use these, man. And I usually just, when clone systems come with controllers, the first thing I do is usually throw them in the trash. These, you don't want to. You really don't. The only downside I could say to them is that they use AAA batteries. Seriously, AtGames, AAA, not AA. And they have a screw that holds in the battery compartment. I hate that. It's really like I have to get a screwdriver every time I want to change the batteries on this, seriously. But these controllers, they feel good. They feel like they're an official Sega Genesis wireless controller you get back in the 90s or something. Why so much attention to detail on this, AtGames? You should have paid attention to this a little more. But keep these if you still decide to get this thing. They're really surprisingly good, and they feel really good. I cannot say enough good about them. So, all right, you heard me blabber enough about the Sega Genesis Flashback. Let's see some gameplay, and let's see if this thing actually holds up. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. So the fails with the Sega Genesis Flashback already begin as soon as you power on the goddamn system. Now here's the user interface of the Sega Genesis Flashback. Looks okay, looks normal. Okay, you're seeing games right here, Golden Axe, Assault City, blah, 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 blah. These are all games I recently played. And you would think like any other UI out there, you see the sidebar with the different categories, and you would just hit up and down to get the recent Sega games, Mortal Kombat, Sonic games, so on and so forth. But nope, not with the Sega Genesis Flashback. If you want to navigate up, you have to hit B on the controller, not up on the D-pad. And if you want to navigate down, you have to hit C on the controller, not down on the D-pad. When the dev team over at AtGames designed the Flashback UI and how to navigate through it, have they ever used any other UI before? Did they not realize it would have just been a hell of a lot easier? Someone overthought this. That's exactly what it is. They're like, oh man, how do we separate the sidebar from the actual game selection? What do we do? Instead of simply just hitting up and down when you're in the sidebar main menu and then hitting right on the D-pad to go over and up and down and left and right to select the games, oh no, we have to do something different. We have to be clever. Let's overthink and have them hit C to go down and B to go up and confuse the crap out of them. I know this seems like a small thing, but this is already a red flag to show that this system was not well thought out. And it even like when you've used this console numerous times, you don't get used to this. You still like, oh man, I have to hit C to go down and B to go up. Your instinct makes you think it's just up and down, left and right, and that's all you need to know, and maybe hit A to select the game that you want. But no, the UI navigation, someone overthought how to design it, and no one stepped in to say, hey, you're overthinking this. This is way too confusing to simply select a game on a clone console. So red flag number one, as soon as you hit the power button on the Sega Genesis Flashback. Let's continue. Alright, so the user interface in a clone console being flaky, if that was its only issue, I could overlook it, because it's not that big of a deal. But a while back, when I just got the Sega Genesis Flashback, I did a live stream of me playing Castlevania Bloodlines. It's not included with the system with the built-in games, but I have a cartridge of the game, and I was live streaming it, and I wanted to beat Castlevania Bloodlines on the live stream. Well, I wasn't able to do that. If you're wondering why, well, here's footage. Take a look. That part of the stage is... Where am I? The game just glitched. Oh, come on. AtGames. Are you serious? Where am I? So yeah, isn't that super grand? You could play a game on the Sega Genesis Flashback by AtGames like Castlevania Bloodlines. You're playing through it, you're thinking everything is stable and okay. Like, alright, maybe the emulation isn't that bad. It has a little bit of frame skipping. It doesn't run super smooth, but it's playable. And you're at the final level, you think you're about to get the Dracula, and there's some game-breaking bug due to poor emulation on the Genesis Flashback, and then you can't finish the game. I couldn't see my character anymore. How could I finish the game? And yes, I tried getting back to that part in Castlevania Bloodlines again on the Flashback. There's save states built into the Flashback, and I loaded one of those save states, got to the same part in Castlevania Bloodlines again, and I couldn't see my character again. So for some reason, when you get to that part of Castlevania Bloodlines on this clone console, you're not going to be able to finish the game. You can't see your character anymore. Good times. Now, even still, if that was the only issue I had with the game on the Sega Genesis Flashback, I would still tentatively give it a pass. Alright, Castlevania Bloodlines has issues, you can't finish the game, but maybe every other game on here works great. So next, I tried Golden Axe. It's one of the built-in games in the Sega Genesis Flashback. I love the Golden Axe series. The original Golden Axe is one of my favorite Sega Genesis games of all time. And I'm thinking, alright, the original Golden Axe is going to run flawlessly. There's no kind of programming wizardry like Konami did with their later Sega Genesis games. It's going to run great. It's going to run smooth, no issues. Well, of course, there is frame skipping on every single Sega Genesis game I've played on the Flashback. So let's just put that to the side. The most important thing is, was I able to get through Golden Axe without any hiccups whatsoever? You ready? Let's count down. 3, 2, 1. The game locked up. Ha ha!
Yes! Woo!
Like solid, frozen solid. Couldn't even back out of the game, go to the main menu. The system as a whole locked up when I was on stage 3 of Golden Axe. It just, strike number, what are we at? Strike 3 already? Strike 3, we're going beyond 3 strikes here, kids. Now here's Sonic the Hedgehog 2, another game included with the AtGames Sega Genesis Flashback, and it runs like absolute crap on the console. There's slowdown in random spots in the game. There's no rhyme or reason to the slowdown. There's crackling issues with the audio, which, to be honest with you, is a problem throughout every game that you play on the Sega Genesis Flashback. It's not unbearable, but there should be no crackling at all to begin with. But that's not the worst of it though. Get ready. I'm about to receive an extra life, and listen to how the theme sounds when I receive the extra life in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Oh wow. Whoa. Whoa. Man, look at those nipples bounce. I'm wearing a different shirt. That's the magic of editing. Now you just saw the footage of Sonic 2. Okay, and I got an extra life, and you heard the bonus theme play. It was right in the beginning of the game. It's not like I was 5 levels in. It's not like something that could be missed. It's not like quality control would have had a tough time finding it at AtGames. You heard it. It literally sounded like someone was drunk behind the Yamaha keyboard when they played the theme. It was... How could you miss that AtGames? It would require 0 effort to test out Sonic 2 to see if the sound emulation is on point. Oh my god, I'm gonna piss my ass out. Okay, boys and girls, are you ready to see those bonus games the Sega Genesis Flashback comes with? I'm gonna warn you now. They're really bad. I'm gonna show you 3 of them. If you buy this system, avoid them at all costs. You've been warned. And what you're looking at here is one of the bonus games called Adventure in the Park. And it's barely a game. You're a monkey, you're shooting pink shit out of your mouth, and you're climbing ladders, and you're getting a key. It barely functions as a game. And oh look, I just got hit by a randomly spawning enemy that spawned right on top of me. Yes! This game is called Spider because there's spiders in it. You can tell they spent a whole lot of effort picking out the name for this one. So what are you doing in this game? I use that term very loosely. Well, you're controlling the crosshair with your D-pad and you're shooting the spiders. I'd rather stare at my ass in the mirror for 6 hours and count my ass cheeks than play this fucking game. And last but not least, we have Mr. Balls. That's literally the name of the game. I don't know what the hell I'm doing in this game. It makes 0 sense. I don't understand the rules. And it's not fun at all. This game is proof that God doesn't exist. Now it's time to bring this review home. Alright, final verdict time, ladies and gentlemen. Should you buy the Sega Genesis Flashback?
No. Save your money. Just save it, please.
AtGames, you have the nerve to charge close to $80 for this garbage when there have been superior clone systems out there. I don't care if there's games inside this thing. First off, you dropped the ball. You didn't have the Streets of Rage games in here. You didn't have Sonic 3 in here. I don't understand how you're missing games like that, or Castlevania Bloodlines. The reason I have footage is because I have a cartridge game of Castlevania Bloodlines. But bad news though, that game towards the end had a game-breaking bug in it. Like you saw in my live stream footage that I showed, I was almost near Dracula playing Castlevania Bloodlines, my cartridge copy on here, and there was a part of the game right before I got to Dracula that you couldn't see my character anymore. Couldn't play it anymore. That was it. I had to stop the stream, had to stop the game. It was over. Now, until the game-breaking bug, I will admit the game was playable, but all the games on here, they run with frame skip. Frame skip, uneven frame rates? On a Sega Genesis clone system in 2018? Really? We're not doing a smooth 60? Come on, man, you have Raspberry Pis that can run Sega Genesis no problem. You have my old-ass garbage phone that can run the Sega Genesis no problem. The emulators ran games perfectly on the Samsung Intercept. And this can't? A dedicated clone console that costs $80? This thing is trash, man. Save your money. There are many other ways to play great old-school Sega Genesis games. This console is not it. Do not buy the Sega Genesis Flashback console made by AtGames. It's shit.